Ron Riley's story, 3 times betrayed and the search for true love. I had been working long hours, ensuring everything was in order before my 2-week vacation. My assistant asked if I was ready for the big day, and I appreciated her suggestion to take off after Wednesday to prepare for the Saturday wedding. This gave me time to unwind at the pub before diving into wedding details on Thursday and Friday. I was relieved that we were keeping the wedding small and intimate. Vicky had become one of my closest friends since I hired her at Personal Wealth Financial almost 10 years ago. I still remember her first interview vividly. Despite being under the weather, she powered through and impressed me with her charisma during the second interview. She wasn't conventionally attractive, but her confident personality truly shone through. Deciding to relax at my favorite bar, I opted for a light dinner. Carla, the bartender, was like a second mother to me, someone I could confide in and who genuinely cared. Despite the wear and tear of a hard life, her inner beauty was undeniable. The pub was quiet, filled with the familiar scent of fried food and a calming atmosphere. Carla greeted me warmly, teasing me about the upcoming wedding. I noticed an attractive woman sitting alone nearby and, feeling friendly, decided to strike up a conversation. "Hi," I said, but her brow furrowed, and she gave me a skeptical look. "You don't seem drunk," raising an eyebrow, I replied. "That's a unique way to say hello." "No, I'm not drunk. The bartender mentioned you were 3 sheets to the wind. I took that to mean you were drunk." Laughing, I explained, "Oh, that's just Carla's nickname for me. It's not 3 sheets, it's 3 cheats." "Wonderful, another guy who can't keep it together." She bit her lip even harder, and the scowl on her face suggested this was a personal issue for her. Just as I was about to respond, Carla returned with my beer and stepped in to help. "Let me tell you, Sherry, Ron is one of the kindest and most loyal men I know. He's not the one who cheats." Her face fell, and her lips began to tremble. I'm sorry, it looked like she might start crying any moment, so I quickly extended my hand to her, hoping to avoid the tears that seemed close to spilling. "That's all right. I'm Ron." She shook my hand quickly, almost as if she was uncomfortable with physical contact. "Actually, I should apologize. You can call me been cheated on too many times to count, or just Sherry for short." "Nice to meet you, Sherry for short. My bad." "Is this a touchy topic?" Her expression brightened a bit with my lame joke. I felt relieved to see her mood improving since I didn't want to make her cry. "Yeah, it's definitely a sensitive issue, but I have a feeling your 3-cheat story is quite interesting." "Maybe, but I'm not sure if you'd want to hear it." "Come on, Ron. Share your story with her," Carla urged. "It's intriguing." Sherry gave me a playful pout. "Please." "Looks like I don't have much of a choice, do I?" "Not really," they both answered together. "All right then. Let's see. Where should I begin? Expectations and reality don't always align. I knew my marriage was over before our first anniversary, which hurt my self-esteem more than my feelings. My first date with Misty was during our senior year of high school. At 18, I was innocent, and Misty was far from that. We ended up together thanks to our mutual friends. My teammates pressured me into pursuing her, teasing me about needing a real girlfriend who was willing to have closeness. Despite my initial resistance, I considered Misty, who had expressed interest in me. Although attractive, she seemed interested in anyone available, which wasn't what I was looking for. I liked Aubrey, my best friend, who had a girl-next-door charm that I found beautiful. Ideally, I wanted Aubrey and me to be each other's first lovers. Her strong morals and our shared church upbringing impressed me. However, my teenage hormones were breaking down my barriers. Let's be honest, I was eager to hook up. Misty found me at Ted's party as if she were on a mission. She approached confidently, making suggestive jokes which caught me off guard. Despite my nerves, our interaction was lighthearted, setting the stage for what was to come. Within an hour, Misty and I were kissing, and by midnight, lust had completely taken over. Aubrey quickly figured it out, looked hurt, but accepted my new path. A few weeks later, she started seeing Dennis, our team's center. I joked about their relationship, but neither was amused, leading to my embarrassment and guilt. Drifting away from Aubrey and Dennis became inevitable as I sought enjoyment elsewhere. Misty and I dated through the school year and summer, exploring each other and sharing interests. I developed feelings for her despite our plans to attend different colleges. We decided not to be exclusive and met whenever we were home. During my first 2 years of college, my hormones and party instincts controlled me. Misty and I connected when home without discussing what happened while apart. I compared every girl to Misty, missing her more each time and eagerly awaiting our next meeting. Despite the distance, my love for her grew. By junior year, I matured, taking on more responsibility and tired of my empty lifestyle. I remained intimate only with Misty and considered proposing. Before our senior year, I needed to understand how Misty felt about our relationship. I confessed my wild behavior with other girls during college, but I always loved her. She admitted to seeing a few guys but always wanted to be with me. I proposed, and she eagerly accepted. After making love, we discussed our future, and she expressed relief that I didn't want to marry before our senior year. This practical approach bothered me slightly, but I brushed it off. However, doubts about her faithfulness lingered, growing over time. Post-graduation, Misty got a real estate job, and I started at personal wealth financial planning. We married in December, and I tried to reconnect with my childhood faith. But Misty showed no interest in spirituality. Living together revealed more about her true nature. The first sign of trouble came when Misty insisted on cutting our honeymoon short for a New Year's Eve party with her college friends. At the party, Misty mingled and chatted with everyone, often disappearing from sight, while her friends kept me occupied. I had to carry a very drunk Misty from the car to our apartment after the party. She apologized for her behavior, and I decided to overlook it. However, over the next year, her many evening appointments, lack of openness about her work and life, and preference for her friends over me made me feel isolated. Despite being married for less than a year, I often felt incredibly alone. When another New Year's Eve party came around, I decided to secretly attend to find out what Misty did with her friends. Pretending to be sick, I stayed home, which seemed to relieve Misty. After a few hours, I arrived at the party around 10 and kept a low profile. I soon spotted Misty, surrounded by 6 guys, taking turns kissing her. She then pulled one of them into a hallway leading to small practice rooms while the others waited. Soon to find out what was happening, I crossed the room. Misty's friend Amy tried to stop me, but I pushed past her. In the practice room, I found Misty making out and undressing with the guy. I wanted to burst in and confront them, but instead, I quietly took a few photos on my phone and then went home. At the apartment, I printed one of the photos and left it on the table next to my wedding ring. I packed enough clothes for a week and checked into a hotel. Sitting alone in the room felt strange, but I finally had answers to my troubling questions. For a few days, I kept Misty in the dark while I found a small furnished apartment. Then I called her to set up a time to talk. She was frantic, but I remained firm. That evening, I went over to discuss our situation. Feeling mostly empty, with some anger and hurt pride, I realized our relationship had never been right. Discovering the real Misty confirmed my doubts. I remembered a conversation I had with my dad years ago about love and relationships. I asked how I'd know when I found the right person. His advice echoed in my mind. It's different for everyone. Maybe when you kiss her, your knees will go weak, or you'll feel a spark like electricity. It could show up in other ways, but you'll know I didn't recall ever feeling that kind of certainty with Misty. Although our kisses were intense, I now saw it was just physical. I never felt the deep connection my dad described. To my surprise, I was. Okay, even though I was still let down by her actions, I was managing just fine. I walked into the apartment at 7 without knocking. Misty was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the photo and my wedding ring. She greeted me with a resigned tone as if she already knew what was coming. We're done, aren't we? I sat down across from her. Yes. Are you going to yell or get angry or something? Why would I? I would. Looks like I finally saw the real you, Misty. Honestly, we're not a good match. What's even clearer to me now is that I don't think I ever really loved you the way a married couple should. I don't think you loved me that way either. Let's end this, keep it civil, and move on. Sound good? I was surprised by her lack of emotion. She just shrugged, which spoke louder than her next words. I guess I wasn't really ready for marriage. I wanted to be ready. You're the kind of guy I'd want to settle down with, and I wanted to be the wife you wanted. I really did, but you're right. I guess it's just not me. Back at the bar today, Sherry seemed lost in thought as I wrapped up the part about Misty. It seems like you avoided a major problem by discovering the truth early in your marriage. I didn't realize my marriage was a lie until 14 years in. Please don't take this the wrong way because you're a really beautiful woman. But I can see the pain in your expression when you talk about it. It seems like finding out the truth, no matter when it happens, can be incredibly painful. At least you can move forward, maybe a bit wiser. With my elbow on the bar, I rested my head in my hand and looked into her eyes. I have a feeling I need to hear your story too. I'm getting better, but yeah, I'll share my story sometime. We're only one cheat into your story, and I need to hear it all. If you need to, it's worth sharing. It turned out better than it started, so maybe that will give you some hope. Sherry glanced away for a moment, looking deep in thought. Do you still keep in touch with Misty? Sometimes. After our divorce, she was diagnosed with MS. It really made her mature quickly. She's doing well now and ended up with a great guy. They seem to be really good for each other. You're not one of those people who get satisfaction from seeing their ex face tough times, are you? No, definitely not. I wouldn't wish something like MS on anyone. I still have positive feelings for Misty. We really did end things on good terms. So who's the next person in your story? I couldn't help but laugh. Number 2. That's a pretty accurate way to describe my experience with Priscilla. I met Priscilla at a farewell party for my friends, Aubrey and Dennis, who were moving to Dallas for Dennis' new VP role. The Hyatt ballroom was buzzing with energy when Priscilla walked in, instantly captivating everyone with her glamorous presence. Her beauty was undeniable, and later I found out she had graced the cover of Maxima just a year prior. Most of the men at the party were married, and their wives quickly formed protective barriers around them. As one of the few single guys, I couldn't help but notice Priscilla's gaze lock onto me. She approached me with a dazzling smile and a handshake that sent a shiver down my spine. We hit it off immediately. Priscilla was smart, engaging, and our conversation flowed effortlessly. As the party wound down, we made plans to meet again the next evening. She left a bit early, giving me a chance to catch up with Aubrey and Dennis. Aubrey, still as beautifully wholesome as in high school, greeted me with a slight frown. Hey Casanova, did Priscilla manage to snag you? She teased, though there was an edge to her voice. We hit it off a bit. Why? Just be careful. Dennis and I really care about you, and we don't want to see you get hurt again. She seems harmless, and I really like her. Ron, I care about you too. Open your eyes, you're falling into the same old patterns. I was a bit annoyed by Aubrey's lecture. How could she think I didn't know what I was doing? I'll be okay, we've just met. I'm not rushing into anything serious yet. Alright, I mean, she's smart and successful, so she has a lot going for her. Just promise me you'll stay alert. Protect your heart. You've got a good heart, and you deserve someone who is truly right for you. I wanted to respond, but the words wouldn't come. I wanted to say, I already found that person, but I let her go. Priscilla and I didn't take long to get close. We seemed to agree on all the big things in life. It wasn't long before we became intimate, and 6 months after meeting, we were married. I made it clear that loyalty was important to me, and she seemed to feel the same. She appeared to share my commitment to faith, so I thought we had what it took to last forever. Priscilla ran a small modeling agency and made sure to balance work and life well. Our wedding was simple, and we started our life together with a lot of optimism. Our home life was cozy and fulfilling, and our bed life was fantastic. Priscilla never gave me any reason to doubt her loyalty or our marriage. After 3 happy years of marriage, we began talking about having children. She seemed excited about it, but I noticed she didn't take the necessary steps, like stopping her birth control, even though she said she would. Despite this, I felt like I had struck gold with Priscilla in my life, just when it seemed like everything was perfect and my life was on track. Things took a dark turn. It was a rainy Monday when I faced one of the worst days of my life. Aubrey called me at the office early that morning. She seldom contacted me at work, and her voice made it clear something was wrong. Aubrey, what's going on? I don't want you to worry, but I just wanted to let you know. Dennis. Dennis has leukemia. Oh my God, did you just find out? I just got back from the doctor's office. He said there are many treatments available now. I hope he's right. Are you all right? She sighed, and I could hear her trying to steady herself. Yeah, the doctor seemed positive. It's a huge shock. Dennis has been a bit tired lately, but we didn't expect this. You know Dennis, he's acting like everything's fine, but I can see he's really struggling. Keep us in your thoughts, okay? She tried to sound hopeful, but I knew her too well. She was hiding deep fear and sadness. I wished I could be there to comfort them, but I couldn't. We usually talked once a month, but I decided from then on to call her weekly. Even though she was far away, she needed me. After our call ended, I felt a heavy wave of sadness wash over me. I stared out my office window at the dreary, rainy scene, feeling overwhelmed with worry. As I was dealing with this news, another close friend, my assistant Vicky, quietly walked into my office and shut the door. Her face was red and tear-streaked, which made me think she'd heard about Dennis and Aubrey. But I was mistaken. Ron, you know I care about you and wouldn't want to hurt you, right? Vicky, you're scaring me. What's wrong? I've been anxious all weekend about this, but you need to know. My husband and I went out for our anniversary dinner and dancing on Saturday. We went to the jazz club downtown and... She broke down in tears. I started to panic, trying to figure out what she was going to say. Then it hit me. Priscilla was supposed to be in a meeting in Portland on Saturday and stayed the night. What's going on, Vicky? Your wife was at the club with another guy and they... Well, I took some pictures. I'm so sorry, Ron. The photos were explicit, showing them touching under the table, dancing closely, and kissing intensely. I was overwhelmed with tears. First, Dennis and Aubrey's devastating news upset me, and now Priscilla's betrayal was crushing me. Vicky hugged me and kept apologizing. I managed to calm down enough to thank her and to apologize for how Priscilla had ruined their weekend. Vicky sent me the photos, and I printed out the most explicit ones to use later that night. The man in the photos was someone Priscilla managed as a model. I stopped by the pub on my way home to gather some courage for the confrontation. Carla helped me relax, and a couple of old football friends were there. I later found out that they had planned to confront Priscilla's lover. They tracked him down and beat him up pretty badly. I felt conflicted. Part of me was glad they did it, but I also felt guilty about it. Waiting for Priscilla to come home felt endless. My stomach was in knots, and I swung between anger, hatred, regret, thoughts of forgiveness, and pain. When she finally walked in, I was sitting at the dining table with the photos ready. She came in all cheerful. Hi, babe, she tried to kiss me, but I pushed her away. Sit down, now. She sat down so quickly she nearly missed the chair. Ron, why are you talking to me like this? I'm not sure. Should I be speaking to you differently? I spread the photos out on the table. What should I say to you? She looked at the first photo and went pale. Her tears would have touched me a day ago, but now they just made me angrier. So, what part of faithful did you not get? Ron, What? Are you going to say it's just an act? That it means nothing? That you only love me? What can you possibly say to fix this? Please don't hate me. Take some time to cool off. I'll never. Never what? Never do it again? How many times have you been with this guy? What about other guys? I can't believe you would betray me like this. Especially knowing what happened with Misty. You just don't understand someone like me. Understand. My anger was at its peak. I grabbed her by the back of her neck and pulled her face close to mine, shouting at her. I know exactly what you are. I'd call you a pig, but that would be an insult to pigs. You tricked me, didn't you? I bet you and your guy enjoyed talking about me while he was taking you from me. I pushed her away roughly, afraid of what I might do next. Her fear was visible, and it both upset and satisfied me. I couldn't stand to look at her, so I turned away to collect myself and try to calm down. I don't think I'll ever understand a liar or a cheater. You completely deceived me and betrayed everything I believed we had. I didn't think I could be hurt this much, but you've done it. I see exactly what you are now, and I know I can never trust you again. I paced around the room, trying to control my anger while she cried softly. I want you out of this house tonight. My lawyer is already working on the divorce papers. The prenup is in effect, so you messed up there. You have 30 minutes to leave and we'll arrange the rest of your things through text. I started to walk away, ignoring her loud sobs. I didn't care. Ron, please. I only love you. Please don't do this. I paused, still with my back to her, and looked at the floor. Love? I don't love you anymore. When I look at you now, all I see is ugliness and nothing I want. And don't say you love me. Love doesn't do what you did. You only love yourself. Now get out before I come back, and tell your boyfriend to run far and fast. Back at the bar, Sherry hesitated before speaking, noting my intense reaction despite appearing kind and gentle. Carla added that betrayal can bring out the worst in anyone. I admitted I probably went overboard, but I explained that my outburst was a way to vent and hurt Priscilla without getting physical. I said everything to let off steam and maybe to teach her a lesson, although whether she'd learn from it was uncertain. Sherry asked if I got closure or ended things on good terms. We parted ways, but not as friends. Priscilla accepted the divorce without much resistance, moved her business to New York, and I haven't heard from her since. Regarding her lover, he recovered from his injuries except for a scar that affected his modeling career. Surprisingly, Priscilla was my alibi since the beating happened 45 miles away while I was dealing with her at home. Initially, I felt a sense of justice, but that feeling faded quickly. Although he was a jerk, I didn't want that to happen, and I didn't start it. So, that's two. It seems like you keep choosing the same type of women and expecting different results. I gave a sad smile. You sound just like my friends. They've all tried to tell me the same thing, but I guess I'm a slow learner because I went through something similar with my next relationship after Priscilla. Seriously. Yeah, unfortunately. As tough as it was, I think you'll find it interesting to hear how I discovered Samantha's cheating. My divorce from Priscilla was finalized in October 2016, and I decided to spend Thanksgiving with Aubrey and Dennis in Dallas. The travel was chaotic, and I ended up waiting at SeaTac for several hours. While sitting in the lounge, I noticed a beautiful blonde woman across from me, visibly stressed and talking on her phone. She was frustrated with airline delays and her mom's demanding attitude. I couldn't help but notice her adorable dimples when she spoke. She ended her call abruptly, muttered under her breath, and then noticed me watching her. Assuming I was laughing at her, she confronted me. Is something funny? Startled, I quickly apologized and explained, No, I just find your dimples charming. She laughed, her annoyance melting away, and blushed slightly. Sorry, I didn't mean to snap at you. It's just been one of those days, and my mom isn't helping. Before I could respond, her phone rang again. She sighed, glanced at the caller ID, and decided to ignore it. I'm not in the mood to say something I'll regret, she explained, rolling her eyes. Understandable. How about I buy you a drink to take the edge off, I offered. She hesitated for a moment, then smiled and said, Sure, why not? I'm Samantha or Sam for short. We ordered drinks and started chatting, getting to know each other over the next 2 hours. Sam's charm and humor captivated me. She wasn't a cover girl like Misty or Priscilla, but she was incredibly attractive. Her crooked smile and lovely dimples made her irresistibly hot, and her athletic build reminded me that I needed to get back in shape. I was almost disappointed when the airline announced that my flight was boarding. As I gathered my things, I discovered that Sam lived in Redmond, close to my home in Kirkland. I asked if she was seeing anyone and expressed my interest in taking her out for dinner. She found my approach bold but agreed, adding her info to my phone. We hugged, and as she pulled away, she asked with a playful grin, Do you really like my dimples that much? I assured her that I did, and she joked, Well, don't be a creep about it. I promised I wasn't, adding, My only fear is that I might bore you. The flight felt amazing as I thought about Sam and our potential relationship. Everything seemed to click between us. When I landed in Dallas, Dennis picked me up. He looked well and shared the great news that he was in remission. Dennis is one of the genuinely good people, and I was overjoyed and relieved to hear he was doing so well. Dennis and Aubrey had 3 kids, and their home was filled with love, exactly what I had always dreamed of. Aubrey made an incredible dinner and, as always, took the opportunity to lecture me about choosing self-centered women instead of those with good values. I wondered about Sam's character if we ended up together. When Sam and I were both back home, I called her, expecting a quick chat, but we ended up talking for 2.5 hours. By the end, I felt like I was floating on air, realizing I wanted to be with her. Our first date was at Matt's Rotisserie and Oyster House. The conversation flowed effortlessly, and I couldn't stop staring into her eyes. I was falling for her quickly. After dessert, our conversation led to some light kissing, and just before we left, she gave me a deep, passionate kiss. She invited me over, but I suggested taking things slow. Sam understood, joking about the situation, and we agreed to keep things relaxed. By Christmas, our love was undeniable, and we let our passions take over. Being intimate with Sam was a tough workout, prompting me to make getting in shape my New Year's goal. A few months later, Sam moved into my place, and we planned a small, intimate wedding for the summer, moving quickly toward commitment. Sam and I stayed active with hiking, kayaking, biking, jogging, and gym workouts, turning exercise into a fun competition. We tracked our fitness with Fitbits and an app, and we were in the best shape of our lives. Our wedding, set for the first Saturday in August, was casual with 37 guests. Vicky, my assistant, attended with her husband, and Aubrey and Dennis were supposed to fly in. I was confident this time was right and eagerly awaited making Sam Mrs. Wiley. As I stood with the minister, I noticed Vicky smiling but couldn't see Aubrey or Dennis. 2 hours into the reception, I received a text from Aubrey saying Dennis' cancer had returned and he was in the hospital. I shared the message with Sam, who agreed I should call Aubrey. Though Aubrey tried to sound optimistic, her fear was evident. Our honeymoon in Hawaii was fantastic, with Sam's support making it even better. In mid-September, we visited Dennis and Aubrey in Dallas. Their kids greeted me warmly, but seeing Dennis, once strong, now thin and frail, was heartbreaking. I tried to hide my shock and acted like everything was normal. After dinner, Sam helped Aubrey with the dishes, and Dennis pulled me aside to his study. He confided that he didn't think he would beat his illness and expressed concern for Aubrey and the kids. He asked me to promise to look after them, which I did, assuring him of my support. Dennis thanked me and commented on how great Sam seemed, wishing us a happy life together. 2 weeks later, Dennis passed away. The service and burial were in Washington, where their families lived. Aubrey and the kids stayed with us for a few weeks while we tried to support them through this tough time. Sam was wonderful and really stepped up as a partner during this difficult period. A few months later, Sam approached me with an idea. Hugh, the gym owner, was looking to retire and wanted to sell the gym and the building for $2 million. While Sam loved her job at Microsoft, owning the gym was her dream. She could cover the cost of the business but needed help with the building's price. I suggested we find a way to make it work since I was well-established and financially stable. I had been planning to set up an LLC to invest in real estate since my portfolio had grown, and I had the freedom to explore other investments. We moved forward with my LLC, named Riley Investments. Sam set up a separate LLC in her name for the gym, and Riley Investments gave her a line of credit to make improvements and handle operating costs during the first few years. Our accountant and lawyer handled the paperwork, and everything went smoothly with our new business ventures. That night, after we finalized all the documents, Sam and I celebrated passionately all weekend long. Microsoft offered Sam a high-paying consultant position. We weighed the pros and cons, but we both agreed that the extra money would really help with her finances. It quickly became clear that the new business was going to be a big success. Running the business and working with Microsoft, including occasional trips, put a lot on Sam's plate. She had the energy, but I had to help out at the gym when she was out of town. We were happy though, and even started talking about starting a family. Sam thought it would work if she eventually quit the Microsoft job. Just after our first anniversary, Sam had to go to Atlanta for 3 days to help with some software development. As usual, we talked every night and shared what we'd been up to. On the second night of her trip, she called me around 3 p.m. West Coast time, or 6 p.m. Atlanta time. "Hey Sam, how was your day?" "Great. We made a lot of progress, but there's still more to do. I can't talk long because some of the team is about to keep working over dinner. Can I make it up to you tomorrow?" "Sure. I'm heading to the gym tonight to check on things, so I'll also see how the staff is doing. Sounds good. Love you, babe. Love you too. I went to the gym and decided to get a workout in before checking on the office. Everything was going well, so I stayed to lock up at 9. I thought about calling Sam but figured it was already after midnight where she was, and she'd probably had a long day. I took a shower and thought about killing time by playing a game on my iPad. Then I noticed the Fitbit app and decided to check my progress. When I opened the app, I felt a wave of panic. My stomach churned with pain as I saw my life falling apart. Sam was working out, her Fitbit was active. Why would she be exercising at almost 1 a.m. her time? The more I looked, the clearer it became what she was up to. I had to call her. I called her phone, but it went straight to voicemail. She had a special ringtone for me, so she knew it was me calling. I kept trying, but it kept going to voicemail. On my 5th attempt, she finally answered. Hey, is everything okay? No, it's not. Are you hurt, or in the hospital, or something? Hurt. Yes, badly. Oh no, what happened? Who's the guy you're with? What? What are you talking about? The guy you're with. What's his name? What? I'm not. Tell me, Sam. Why? Ron. How did you find out? Next time you cheat, take off your damn Fitbit. I ended the call, turned off my phone, and threw it across the room. I couldn't sleep, so I went for a walk to calm down, but ended up walking for miles, crying the whole time. I couldn't believe this was happening again. Why do I keep ending up with unfaithful wives? When I got home, I had some tasks to handle. We kept our finances separate, but we had a few joint accounts and credit cards for household expenses. I transferred the money from those accounts into mine and closed as many as I could online. I sent a late-night email to my lawyer, asking for an appointment with a divorce attorney as soon as possible. The next day, I took a day off from work to sort things out. I had the divorce papers and the prenup ready. I met with my accountant and lawyer to begin the process of calling in the loan I gave Sam for the gym. The loan documents included a clause that let me demand the full amount with 60 days' notice. How could I have been so naive? How did she manage to deceive me? I was in so much pain and wanted her to feel it too. Part of me wanted to get back at her and make her life miserable. I hadn't talked to Sam since the incident, so I had no idea what her plans were for coming back home. To make things worse, I broke my phone when I threw it, so I had to get a new one and immediately blocked her number. I needed support, so I called Aubrey. She helped calm me down and urged me to take it easy on the revenge. She was my voice of reason when I didn't want one, but I promised I'd try to listen. I considered stopping by the pub, but if Sam stuck to her original schedule, she'd be back soon. I wanted to face her before she got home, but I wasn't quick enough. When I got home, I found Sam crying. She ran over to hug me, but I pushed her away. Don't touch me, Sam. Oh, please. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Sorry? That's not going to happen. Don't leave me. I don't want to lose you. Lose me? No? You threw us away? I was foolish. I thought what? That you could get away with it? Or that I wouldn't care? Or that you could break our vows and deal with the consequences later? Or that disrespecting me and sleeping around wouldn't matter? Did you think risking my love and tearing my heart apart was worth it? Or did you think there was someone better out there for you? No. Then what was going through your mind? Tell me your excuse. It wasn't really excusable. It was just a dumb fling. Dumb fling? Seriously? How often do you do that? Are you hooking up with guys at the gym, sneaking around in the bathroom? I can't understand how you thought that was a valid reason. I just thought. There you go again, saying you thought it through. If your problem was your drive, I was always just a call away for some phone closeness. If you can't go a few days without it, then you've lost control. Please, Ron, let's try to move past this. Here's the deal, sweetheart. You let another guy, who you still haven't named, be intimate with you in a way that was supposed to be just for us. Don't tell me it's your body and you can do whatever you want. It's our body. We promised to be faithful to each other until death. Our marriage died as soon as you slept with him." She cried louder than I'd ever heard anyone. I wanted to take pleasure in her suffering, but it was hurting me too. "Calm down, be quiet, and listen. You'll get the divorce papers soon." No, please, not a divorce. Help me fix this." "Listen up. The prenup's terms for cheating are in effect. You won't get much. I'm also calling in the loan. There's over $350,000 left. You have 60 days to pay it, or I'll take the gym." "No, Ron, you'll destroy me." I said, "Be quiet. And listen, I won't call in the loan if you agree to the divorce. If you fight it, I'll go for everything. I don't care about the money or the gym. I just want you. Please, let's try to work this out." "No, Sam, you knew about my painful past with unfaithful wives. You promised you wouldn't do that to me, and yet a year later you did. I'll never trust you again, especially after seeing how little respect you have for me, knowing what this would do." "Damn it, Ron, I made a huge mistake. I'm not perfect, but neither are you. Are you saying you've never thought about being with another woman?" I struggled to keep my cool, biting my lips so hard I could taste blood. "Yeah, none of us are perfect. We all have fantasies. The difference is you acted on yours. I never would have. Please stop begging. It's making me sick. But we were planning to start a family." "What? Do you really think I'd want our kids to have a mother who thinks like you obviously do? I want our children to be kind, respectful, moral, and loving. I don't want them influenced by someone who could do what you did." She started crying loudly again, and I didn't want to listen to it anymore. I left, saying I'd come back in a day or two after we both had a chance to calm down. It was hard leaving someone I loved, who was heartbroken and sobbing on the floor. At first I hoped she felt as shattered as I did, but then I felt terrible guilt for leaving her like that. I had to get out before I broke down myself. I didn't want her to see me like that. After a few days I had calmed down. We talked, and I agreed to go to counseling to see if we could fix things. I didn't want to be a 3-time loser, and I really did care about her. I just wasn't sure if I could ever feel like she was truly my life partner again. After 6 weeks of counseling, we were driving home from our last session, and Sam was unusually quiet. I glanced at her a few times, noticing tears gently rolling down her face. Even though I'm not the most observant guy, I knew that night was going to be a turning point. We walked quietly through the front door, and Sam finally broke the silence. "Can we sit down and talk? I need to tell you something." "Sure, babe," I replied, figuring she wanted to sit next to me on the couch to avoid eye contact. Sam took a deep breath, gathering herself, and began her story. "When I was growing up, I was very close to my dad. I was like his little princess, and he was my hero. Just like a good dad should be. My sister and I would always cuddle with him on the couch while watching movies or just hanging out after dinner. Even when I went through my rebellious teenage years, I still had a strong bond with him." She paused for a moment, her voice trembling slightly. "When I turned 16, I made a vow at our church to stay innocent until I was married. I took that promise very seriously and meant every word. Our church used to have similar events when I was younger. Yeah, it was a thing back then. Anyway, I started dating a guy from my Sunday school class. We had been dating about a year, and he kept bugging me to get intimate. On my 18th birthday, I gave in, and Pandora's box was opened. I couldn't get enough." She looked at me with a sad smile. "I know how you are." "Yeah, anyway, everyone else in the family had to go out to a banquet one night, and my boyfriend and I were home alone. Of course, we were naked before the family car left the driveway. About 15 minutes later, we were going at it, and yes, I was riding him hard. I looked up and saw my dad standing in the doorway watching us. He had forgotten his insulin and had come back to get it. He seemed like he wanted to say something, but instead he just walked away." I could see the pain in her eyes as she continued. I quickly covered myself and tried to catch up with him, though I didn't know what to say. Just before he left through the front door, he turned to me with tears in his eyes. I felt like I was struck by lightning. I was frozen. He calmly said, "You're an adult now and can make your own choices." And then he left. I interjected softly. He seemed pretty calm about it. "Not really," she replied, her voice heavy with emotion. What broke my heart was the change in his eyes after that night, right up until he passed away. Before, when he looked at me, his eyes were full of love. They used to sparkle, but after that night, that look was gone. When he looked at me, I felt like all he saw was me with my boyfriend, something no father should have to witness. Sam's face was now streaked with tears as she relived the painful memory. I felt a shiver down my spine as I realized why she needed to share this with me. I wanted to say something, but I let her continue. After that, we never cuddled again. We hugged when we said hello or goodbye, but the special bond of daddy and princess was gone. We still loved each other, but it was just father and daughter from then on. She took a moment to compose herself, and I reached out to hug her, both to comfort her and to show that I understood. "Ron," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I see the same hurt in your eyes that my dad had. When you look at me, you probably see me with another man and relive my betrayal. I know you want to forget it and go back to how things were before I messed up, but it's hard for you to let it go. I'm sorry. I'm not holding on to this to get back at you or anything. I still love you. I know you do, but that look will always be there. You won't be able to fully trust me no matter how much you want to. Even if I do everything right to prove I'll be faithful from now on, you'll always have that doubt in your mind. Once a cheater, always a cheater. There's nothing we can do to fix it. I've ruined what we had, and we can't go back." "So you're saying we should just give up?" I asked, my heart sinking. "I'm saying you deserve to be with someone you can trust completely, and I need to find someone who looks at me the way you used to before my mistakes. We both need to move on separately." Back at the bar, Sherry was on the edge emotionally, tears silently streaming down her face. I had shed a few tears too, just thinking about that awful time. After I left Sam at the house that night, I came to the pub. Carla could tell something was wrong just by looking at me. Carla wiped her own tears as she recounted that night. When I saw Ron walk in, I knew he was about to break down. I told Pete to cover the bar and took Ron into the office. As soon as the door shut, he fell into my arms and cried his heart out. Sherry stared at her beer, her voice barely audible. "I know that feeling. I understand that pain." Carla comforted me and talked with me for hours that night. She finally got me to laugh a bit, and that's when she gave me my nickname, 3 Cheats to the Wind. "Yeah," Carla said, "I told him he would get through this and eventually be able to let go of the pain, just like he did before. He promised he'd never put himself in that situation again." Sherry put her hand on mine and gave a small smile. "You look good now. Actually, you look great. You give me hope. I just moved here for a fresh start, and it feels like fate brought us together so you could share your story. You seem happy now." I finally realized I was making the same mistakes over and over. It started back in high school when I chose closeness, looks, and certainty over shared values and respect. I had the perfect woman and let her go, always chasing after the wrong things. "You were thinking about Aubrey?" Sherry asked softly. I closed my eyes and smiled. Yes, it took me a few months to be ready to move on from Sam, but I knew the woman I wanted and needed was the one who had always been my best friend. "So you went to Dallas and won her over?" Carla grinned and lightly tapped the bar. You'd think he'd do something straightforward like that, but no. Ron, being the genius he is, managed to mess it up too. "Thanks, Mama Carla," I said, rolling my eyes. Sherry's face looked sad, like she was watching a tragedy unfold. "You didn't pursue Aubrey?" "Oh, of course I did. But I was cautious because I wasn't sure if she was ready to move on after Dennis' death. We kept in touch, and I was trying to figure out the right time to tell her how I felt. Carla was my sounding board. I was about to tell Carla that I had tickets to fly to see Aubrey, planning to propose when I got there. "So what happened?" Sherry asked, leaning in closer. 4 weeks earlier, I woke up after a night with no sleep. Actually, I guess you can't wake up if you never slept, but I sat up with a new sense of determination. I tossed and turned all night, and around 3 a.m., I decided I was going to Dallas to tell Aubrey how I felt. If everything went as planned, I'd come home engaged to the woman I had always wanted. Once I made that decision, I couldn't sleep because I was battling my fears and excitement. I was a mess, but I was determined to see if she felt the same way. It was Friday morning, and I needed to finish some work. So I headed to the office and worked frantically to get everything done. I also managed to buy a plane ticket for the next day to get to Dallas. It took longer to wrap up my tasks than I'd hoped, but I finished by 4 p.m. and went to the pub to share my plans with Carla. "Three cheats, Ron. You're early today," Carla greeted me with a knowing look. "I know, and I can't stay long. But I wanted to tell you I've finally decided to go see Aubrey. I have to tell her how I feel." "Well, you don't," Carla started to say something, but I was too excited to notice. "Listen, I need to get ready. I want to go to the jewelry store to make sure I have a ring to give her." "Ron, listen." "Carla, thanks for all your help." "Ron, stop talking and listen. I need to deliver these drinks, but if you turn around and look in the booth by the restrooms, you might find you don't need to go to Dallas." "What? What do you mean?" I asked, confused. "Just look over there." "I'll be right back." I turned around, and my heart skipped a beat, but then sank. I saw enough of her profile to recognize Aubrey. She was sitting with a guy, holding his hand across the table. They were smiling at each other like they were in love. The pain in my stomach was intense. I quickly left the bar to avoid making a scene and threw up in the bushes by the front door. I was in shock. My mind was a mess, and I couldn't think clearly. I turned off my phone and drove aimlessly, feeling sorry for myself. I just kept driving until the tears blurred my vision. I realized I had driven all the way to West Seattle, so I went to AICHI Beach to stop for a while. My eyes were burning when I finally parked. I sat there and cried like a baby. After gaining some control, I walked along the beach and sat down as the sun set over the water. My mind was flooded with thoughts, but I couldn't focus and felt completely lost. It was around midnight when I finally headed home. I took a shower, got dressed, and then drove to the office around 1 a.m., hoping to distract myself. It was the middle of the night and Saturday, so I knew I'd be alone during the day, which was exactly what I needed. Besides canceling my flight, I didn't get anything done. I managed to grab a few hours of sleep on the couch in my office, then spent the rest of the time sitting in my desk chair, staring out the window, unable to figure things out. Should I let her go? Should I fight for her? I couldn't decide which way to go. Around 2 p.m., I finally went to the pub to find Carla. I realized I'd left the night before without talking to her after she warned me that Aubrey was there with someone else, so she was probably worried. When I walked in, Carla spotted me right away. Her expression wasn't what I expected. Instead of looking concerned, she seemed really angry. "What the heck were you thinking running out of here like that?" she snapped, slamming a beer down in front of me. Before I could respond, she continued, "You idiot, you had me so worried. I have to finish delivering these drinks, but you better stay in that seat until I get back." Carla's words were softened for politeness. She never used bad language, especially with me, so I decided to stay quiet. What was making her so mad? She continued glaring at me and muttering insults while texting someone and serving other customers. It took her about 10 minutes to finish her work, and when she finally stood in front of me, her glare was intense, like she was trying to read my soul. She seemed to be trying to calm down before speaking, while I sat there frozen in fear. "What a moron! I thought you were going to talk to Aubrey, but you just ran out instead. What in the world were you thinking?" I started, but she cut me off. "Shut up. You spent months, no, years telling me how much you loved Aubrey, and then you just ran off without even talking to her. But you warned me. You showed me where they were." "Warned you? About what?" "Damn it, Carla. You know I love Aubrey more than anything. I told you I was going to Dallas to finally tell her how I feel and ask her to marry me. In my heart, I had already given my life to Aubrey. The woman I've loved since we were kids. I would do anything to make her mine. When you showed me where she was with her boyfriend, I realized she might have moved on with him." Carla's expression softened a lot, but then I noticed she wasn't looking at me but just past my shoulder. I felt a gentle hand on my back and heard a voice that felt like it came from heaven. "Is that how you really feel about me, Ron? I've been waiting almost 20 years to hear you say that." I quickly turned around on the bar stool and Aubrey embraced me. Our kiss was full of fierce, passionate energy I'd never felt before. It felt like our hearts and minds merged into one shared love. It was as if we were elevated to a new level of connection, looking down on our union from a heavenly perspective. After 3 marriages and many other relationships, it took just one real kiss for me to understand what my dad had been trying to tell me all those years ago. I was certain now. Aubrey was the one. She was the true love I had always wanted and needed. Back at the bar, Sherry couldn't hide her tears. "You almost lost the woman of your dreams again," she asked, her voice cracking with emotion. Carla looked at me with a raised eyebrow. Yes, he did. Once he got over their very passionate display, I asked him what he was thinking, pulling a stunt like that. "I told you, she was with another guy." Carla looked like she was about to scold me again, but I saw a hint of amusement in her eye. Then I told him he was being a fool for making assumptions without finding out the truth. A smile spread across my face when I felt her hands on my shoulders before she spoke. "Carla, are you being tough on Ron again?" I turned to my love and pulled her close for another kiss. After a few seconds, Carla chuckled and cleared her throat. "Hey, do you two want to find a room? This public display of affection is making the other customers uncomfortable." Aubrey smiled at her. "We'll definitely make good use of a room in a few days, won't we, sweetie?" Sherry smiled, her cheeks glistening with tears. "You two look wonderful together." "Oh, sorry, Sherry, I want you to meet my fiancé." "Hi, Sherry, Ron's manners are a bit off. I'm Aubrey." Sherry's eyes filled with happy tears. "Aubrey, it's so nice to meet you. Ron has been talking about you all evening. I have to say, if he ended up with anyone but you, it would have been a sad story. It's amazing when high school sweethearts end up together." "Ron, you've been talking about me?" Aubrey asked, raising an eyebrow playfully. "You're the only thing I care enough to talk about." Aubrey kissed me gently again. "Oh, you're so sweet." Then she turned to Sherry with a raised eyebrow. "I wouldn't call us sweethearts. We were definitely best friends," though, she added. "We both wanted to be more than friends, but we had trouble figuring out how to make that happen." Aubrey chuckled and said, "Actually, Ron was a teenage boy, and I was too serious to be the subject of his erotic experimentation." All right, she's right. Sometimes I think about how different things might have been if I'd grown up sooner. I've always loved her. And I ended up with 3 women who were beautiful like she was, but were empty inside and could never compare to her. Well, Aubrey, Ron was definitely right when he said how wonderful you are. What matters most is that when I look into his eyes, I see how deeply connected our hearts are. I know he loves me without any conditions, and I feel like the luckiest woman alive. Sherry took Aubrey's hand and looked at both of us with concern. "Wait a minute, what happened to the other guy?" Aubrey smiled understandingly. "There wasn't another boyfriend. That was my cousin Paul. I was staying with him and his wife while I looked for a place to live. I was planning to move back and hoped Ron would finally get up the courage to ask me to marry him." Sherry smiled and wiped away a few tears. "You two are amazing together. I was hoping I might have a chance with Ron," she laughed. "But I see that's not going to happen. I moved here from California to start fresh and was looking for new friends and maybe a soulmate. I hope there are a few more like Ron around my age." Carla reached across the bar, putting one hand on my shoulder and the other on Sherry's. "Sherry, you've got 3 new friends right here." Aubrey added, "Yes, and you definitely need to come to our wedding on Saturday, especially since you're new here." "That's very kind, but I don't want to intrude." "Come on, girl. Celebrating the marriage of 2 of your 3 new friends is not intruding. We'd be upset if you didn't come. Plus, almost everyone there will be from around here, and I'm sure you'll make plenty of new friends." "All right, you've convinced me. Ron, sweetheart, text her the details. You two really are such a sweet couple. Doesn't it seem like a shame you both had to go through so much to get to this point?" I can't speak for Ron completely, but I think he needed his past experiences to get himself sorted out. As for me, I wouldn't trade my time with Dennis or the joy our 3 kids have brought me for anything. I love Dennis with all my heart. So wishing things had started differently with Ron doesn't matter much, and it might not have worked out anyway. I believe the timing was just right. And God knows what He's doing. My love for Ron has always been there and is as strong as the love I had for Dennis. I'm just lucky to have had 2 wonderful men who brought so much love into my life. That's really touching. It's amazing that you two finally get to be together. It wasn't a miracle. It was more like a plan, I said, and Aubrey playfully smacked me on the head and laughed. Carla and Aubrey were behind the scenes making it all happen. That's partly true, Carla said. When Ron and Sam broke up, I called Aubrey. Ron had already talked to her, but that's not why I called. I wanted to know when they'd finally get together. Aubrey took over the story with a chuckle. Dennis had been gone for 11 months by then, and I wasn't ready to jump into a new relationship. I had considered being with Ron before, but I wasn't ready and didn't think Ron would be either since his breakup was so recent. We still talked at least once a week. And I could hear his pain and anger. So I told Carla to help Ron heal since he was in the bar almost every night. And I'd try to figure out how he was doing when he called. I knew I wanted to be with Ron, and I figured he'd be ready by the time I was ready to move forward. I jumped in when Aubrey paused. It took about 6 months, and I realized I couldn't think of anything or anyone but Aubrey. I even thought about quitting my job and moving to Dallas to start my own business with the hope that Aubrey and I could build a future together. He had no idea I was already planning to move back to Kirkland. Quiet, honey, I'm telling this story. Go ahead, show off. So they had worked out when Aubrey would show up at the bar to surprise me, and then he almost messed everything up by disappearing. Carla, you ladies always interrupt when a guy's telling his story. Sorry, continue. As I was saying, that's when I nearly messed everything up. You know the rest. When Aubrey came up behind me after Carla had chewed me out, it was like going from total darkness to bright light. When Aubrey spoke before I could even say anything or finish turning around. I was getting the most intense, passionate kiss of my life. It felt like a jolt of electricity kick-started my heart for the first time. That was one incredible kiss, sweetheart. Every kiss with you is like that. Anyway, after we finally pulled apart, she looked into my eyes and asked, "You tell her, honey." I asked Ron, "Do you love me as much as I just heard you tell Carla he was talking so sweetly about me?" And I replied, "I love you with everything I have, and I want us to be a family. Marry me, Aubrey." That was 4 weeks ago. Hold on, you planned an entire wedding in just 4 weeks? Sherry asked, incredulous. Sherry, I spent 16 years trying to get the woman I've always wanted. I knew she was the right one for me all along, and I messed up by making too many dumb choices. We weren't going to waste another second. The wedding was amazing. I don't think there's anyone more beautiful than Aubrey. Sherry came to the wedding and spent a lot of time meeting new people, especially Aubrey's older brother who was single. They've been dating for several months now, and Sherry has become one of our closest friends. I'm not Uncle Ron anymore. Now the kids call me Papa Ron. They asked if they should call me Dad. I told them I love them like they were my own, but their real dad is special, and they should always remember him as Dad. Papa Ron is perfect for me. Before the wedding, Aubrey asked if I wanted a prenuptial agreement. No way, sweetheart, you mean everything to me. I don't need a backup plan. So 3 cheats to the wind isn't trying for a record, she teased. Definitely not. Being married to you is more than I ever deserved. My days of dealing with cheaters are over. Maybe one of our kids will write a story about us someday. They might call it, "It Only Took 4 Tries" or something fun like that. Speaking of kids, Mr. Riley, we need to set up a nursery. Life with Aubrey was everything I had dreamed of and more. After the whirlwind of our wedding and the excitement of starting a new chapter together, we settled into a rhythm that felt right, comfortable, yet full of the love and passion I had always hoped for. We decided to take a honeymoon road trip across the Pacific Northwest. It was something neither of us had done before, and we loved the idea of exploring the beautiful landscapes together. We rented a cozy cabin near Mount Rainier for a week, and it felt like we were in our own little world, surrounded by nature and each other. The days were filled with hikes, late-night talks by the fire, and quiet moments where we just enjoyed being in each other's company. Every now and then, I would catch Aubrey looking at me with a smile, and I knew she was thinking the same thing I was: how lucky we were to have found each other after all this time. One evening, as we sat on the porch, wrapped in blankets and sipping hot cocoa, Aubrey brought up something that had been on both our minds. "Ron," she began softly, "I've been thinking a lot about what you said before the wedding. About setting up a nursery." I turned to look at her, my heart skipping a beat. We hadn't talked much about kids since the wedding, but I knew it was something we both wanted. "What about it?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She smiled, a little shyly. "I think it's time we start planning for that. I'm ready if you are." My chest swelled with emotion. I had always wanted to be a father, and hearing Aubrey say those words made everything feel so real. "I'm more than ready," Aubrey, I said, pulling her into a tight embrace. "I can't wait to start a family with you." The next few months flew by as we settled back into our life in Kirkland. We began making plans for the future, finding a bigger house with room for a nursery, looking into schools, and talking about what kind of parents we wanted to be. But life has a way of throwing curveballs, and just as we were getting ready to take the next big step, we received some unexpected news. Aubrey was pregnant. We had talked about trying, but neither of us expected it to happen so quickly. The day she told me, I was in the middle of a meeting at work when my phone buzzed with a text message from her. It was a picture of a positive pregnancy test with the caption, "Looks like we're going to need that nursery sooner than we thought." I couldn't contain my excitement. I immediately excused myself from the meeting and called her. "Are you serious?" I asked, my voice trembling. She laughed, a joyful sound that made my heart soar. "I'm serious, Ron. We're having a baby." The months that followed were a whirlwind of preparations. We found the perfect house, a beautiful, spacious home with a large backyard and plenty of room for our growing family. The nursery became our favorite project, and we spent countless weekends painting, decorating, and making sure everything was just right for our little one. Aubrey's pregnancy was smooth, and she handled it with grace and strength that made me love her even more. She was glowing, and every time I looked at her, I felt a surge of gratitude for the life we were building together. Then, one crisp autumn morning, our daughter was born. We named her Emma Grace, and from the moment I held her in my arms, I knew my life had changed forever. She was perfect in every way: tiny fingers, a button nose, and the softest little cry I had ever heard. As I looked at Aubrey, exhausted but smiling with pure love and joy, I realized that all the pain and heartache I had gone through to get to this point had been worth it. This was my family, my future, and I couldn't have asked for anything more. Life with a newborn was challenging, of course. Sleepless nights, endless diaper changes, and the constant worry that comes with being new parents. But every moment was filled with love. Watching Aubrey with Emma made me fall in love with her all over again, and seeing Emma's bright eyes and tiny smile made every struggle feel like a blessing. We were a family now, a real family, and as the years passed, our love only grew stronger. Emma brought so much joy into our lives, and we made sure she knew every day how much she was loved. Aubrey and I often talked about how different our lives had become since we were kids, dreaming about the future. We had both gone through so much, but in the end it all led us here to this perfect little family we had created. And as I watched Emma take her first steps, say her first words, and grow into a beautiful, curious little girl, I knew that I had finally found the happiness I had been searching for all my life. This was what it meant to be truly happy. To love and be loved, to have a family that filled every corner of your heart, and to know that no matter what challenges came our way, we would face them together. Looking back on everything, I realized that every heartache, every mistake, and every painful lesson had been leading me to the life I was always meant to have with Aubrey and our daughter, Emma. And for that, I would always be grateful. As Emma grew, so did our love for her and for each other. Our days were filled with the simple joys of parenthood, teaching her to say new words, watching her explore the world with wide-eyed wonder, and cherishing every precious moment we spent together as a family. Aubrey and I often found ourselves marveling at how lucky we were, not just to have found each other, but to have been blessed with such a wonderful daughter. But life, as it often does, had more surprises in store for us. One chilly winter evening, as we sat by the fireplace with Emma nestled between us, Aubrey turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Ron, have you ever thought about expanding our family?" I looked at her, surprised but intrigued. "Do you mean having another child?" She nodded, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Yes, I've been thinking about how much joy Emma has brought into our lives, and I can't help but wonder what it would be like to give her a sibling. Someone to grow up with, to share memories with. Another little one to love." The idea filled me with warmth. We had talked about having more children before, but with everything that had happened in our lives, we hadn't made any concrete plans. Now, as I looked at Aubrey and then down at Emma, who was happily playing with her toys, the thought of another child felt right. "I'd love that," I said, smiling at Aubrey. "Let's do it." And so we began planning for the next addition to our family. The months that followed were filled with the same anticipation and excitement we had felt when we were expecting Emma. This time, however, there was a sense of calm that came from knowing we had been through this before. We were more prepared, more experienced, and more than ready to welcome another child into our lives. As the months passed, Aubrey and I continued to enjoy every moment with Emma, knowing that soon our little family would grow. We spent our weekends taking her to the park, teaching her how to ride a tricycle, and reading her bedtime stories that made her giggle with delight. Life felt full and complete, but we knew that the best was yet to come. Then, one bright spring morning, Aubrey gave birth to our son, Benjamin James. The moment I held him, I felt the same overwhelming surge of love that I had felt when Emma was born. He was perfect just like his sister, and I couldn't wait for him to grow up surrounded by the love of our family. Emma, who was now a curious and energetic toddler, was overjoyed to meet her baby brother. She would sit by his crib and sing to him, showing him her favorite toys and making sure he knew just how much he was loved. Watching the bond between our children form was one of the greatest joys of my life. As our family grew, so did our adventures. We took road trips to national parks, explored the forests and mountains that surrounded our home, and spent countless hours playing in the backyard. Aubrey and I made sure to nurture our relationship as well, knowing that a strong marriage was the foundation of a happy family. Every night, after the kids were asleep, we would sit together on the porch, sipping tea and talking about our day. Sometimes we would reminisce about our past, the struggles we had overcome, the people we had loved and lost, and the choices that had led us to each other. Other times we would dream about the future, imagining what life would be like when our children were older, and we had the chance to travel the world together. One evening, as we watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and orange, Aubrey leaned her head on my shoulder and sighed contentedly. "I never imagined life could be this good," she whispered. "Me neither," I replied, wrapping my arm around her. "But I'm so glad it is." We sat in silence for a while, just enjoying the moment. And as I looked out at the horizon, I knew that whatever challenges life threw our way, we would face them together with love, with strength, and with the unwavering belief that we were exactly where we were meant to be. The years continued to pass, and our family flourished. Emma and Benjamin grew into bright, kind-hearted children who brought endless joy to our lives. Aubrey and I remained as in love as ever, grateful for every day we had together. We celebrated the milestones, birthdays, anniversaries, and first days of school, knowing that each moment was a gift. And through it all, we never forgot how far we had come. The journey that had brought us together was filled with heartache and hardship, but it had also led us to the life we had always dreamed of. A life filled with love, laughter, and the kind of happiness that only comes when you find your true home in each other. As I looked at my family, gathered around the dinner table one evening, I felt a deep sense of peace. This was my life, my family, my future, and I couldn't have asked for anything more. For Ron Riley, the road had been long and winding, but it had led him exactly where he was meant to be, in the arms of the woman he loved, surrounded by the family they had created together. And as the years turned into decades, that love only grew stronger, proving that sometimes the best things in life are worth waiting for.